Welcome back to Tabletop Salt. I'm Ross, and today I'm looking at the Games Workshop price increases, looking at why they might be increasing their prices, what exactly is increasing, and what is staying the same. First thing we're going to look into is why the price hike. Now, the easiest one that we're going for is, we've all heard the dreaded word of inflation. The cost of living at the moment is increasing, and this does impact businesses as well. Their general running costs and the produces they make, well, they are going to cost the business more, and Games Workshop have decided to pass that cost on to the customer. Now, many businesses do that, and it is perfectly understandable. Now, some people might argue that Games Workshop, the amount of money that they do make in profit, maybe they should have thought about eating some of the cost up in there, but inflation is increasing, and this is a common thing, so I'm not going to generally blame them for this approach. However, there is other areas that I do think is a bit unwarranted. The general increase of prices. Now, Games Workshop, and this is one thing, have increased their prices almost, I think, yearly, sometimes in small amounts and then sometimes in larger ones, and this one looks to be a much larger one. Either way, it seems that they have incrementally increased their price bit by bit in different areas, and some of them, when you look back, especially in the past couple of years, well, actually not couple, in the past 5 years, there are certain items that seem to have just gone up in cost quite a large amount, and I will look into this in a later example. The last one I'm going to discuss is the stock price. Now, Games Workshop had a very good rise in about mid-2017, and I think that might be largely put down to the relaunch of 40k going into 8th edition, and then that allowed a lot more players to come in, and they generally went up in value quite well. And then the pandemic happened, and they did have an initial dip because the world did, and then they went up quite sharply, and I suspect that was largely due to, well, people were looking for things to do, and Games Workshop items seemed like something for people to pick up and have fun with, whether it be painting, modelling, or just reminiscing over their time playing Games Workshop products. However, this has now came into later times. We've now looking at the end of 2021, and the price has decreased. Now, we could think that there's many things that Games Workshop is doing in the background to try and alleviate some of their investors' worry as their stock begins to go down. Now, this could be various things we don't know about yet, that's behind the scenes, but one of the things is that they're trying to go, well, we're increasing the prices to match with inflation. Now, that will hopefully alleviate some concerns to say that, okay, we are going to make more profit through this, but could it have an impact on the hobby as well? Well, they must have decided that the cost of actually increasing the price versus the possible customers they might lose is worth it. Otherwise, they might have not gone as high amount that they're charging for for products going forward. Some of them going up quite a large percentage. Speaking of which, let's have a look at some of the items that are going up. What items are increasing? So the first one they sort of looked at is general kits, and they said in many cases, note, not most cases, and I think that is something very important. Sometimes wording matters, and when they say many, that could be as low as 10 to 20% of them, and they go, yeah, that's many cases, where most would hopefully mean about more than 50%. Either way, I just think that's something very important to note. But they say that the increase is 5%, and they use heavy intercessors as an example, and they go, they only increase by £1. But a £1 increase on that item is not 5%. I think it's somewhere about 3%. And so thus that sort of pound seems a bit of an odd equivalence, where you're saying, yeah, 5%, it's only £1, you know, this item's only going up by £1, but it was not that 5% mark. So I think we're going to see more items go up by £1, probably 2, possibly even worse. So I'm really skeptical on this one. That one just seemed a little bit odd phrasing to me. Next one is books, and books have been something I've been watching and pricing for a while, and certainly was a sort of, when I say recent example, it's been the ones when it comes to the war zones, because I have not given very much positive views on them in the past. Either way, books are going up by about 10%, and at the moment most codexes are £30. Now, I am using British standard prices for this, while Chardon came out £35, Octarius and Natchment both came out at £30. Now, I'm assuming that they tried their chance at increasing Warzones to £35 with the aim of probably codexes going to this at a later date, and then due to poor sales they just went, oh no, this isn't going to work, that they then reduced this down for Octarius and Nachemund. And I believe that Charadon is still at that £35, while the later releases are at 30, and that's almost unheard of. It must have done really, really bad for them to go, we need to walk this back. However, one thing I would say in that one is sometimes it's not about the price that people are annoyed at, it might be the quality. And when it comes to these Warzone ones, if you're a narrative player, I think they're actually pretty good, depending on what you want from a narrative gameplay. If you're just playing points, then they are not good value, and I think that played a big factor into it. Either way, I think now is the time that they're going to be increasing their prices. Now, if you're increasing it by 10%, you'd be looking at a £3 increase. I'm going to hedge my bets that, you know, look, they could go down to like £32.50, and that's about 8%, and people would be very happy with that to go, well, at least you didn't go to the 10% mark. I mean, we'd prefer if you stayed at 30, but I'm going to guess that they're going to finally hike up to the £35 mark. 33 just seems like an odd number to sell your books at. Usually like to try and get them to round numbers, whether it be 30, £32.50, 35. It depends. Sometimes they do go for a bit odder prices, such as £33.50 or something. But my point of the matter is, I can see this being £35. If I'm going to put my money on anything going to be a price I'm going to predict, books, £35. Maybe 33, but let's put our money on £35 for that one. Scenery, a bit of an odd one. Scenery is a plastic item mostly, and I would suspect that this would go in line with the 5% increase. However, it has been increased by the dreaded 10%. Rumour is that it's been produced in China, and that might have different problems in terms of logistics. They are bigger boxes, so there's more storage. There can be different factors in that one. I just find this one a real odd one that they chose of the plastic, which seemed to be something affordable that they can increase at a small amount. They've got no scenery. This is going to be a little bit more. Could be different factors, but either way they have been quite forward with this one and let you know that scenery is going to be different from the other plastic items, that it is going to see a higher increase. And finally, and this one's really unsurprising, resin is going to be going up, and generally I think that the healthy thing for Games Workshop going forward is, I know they have been doing this and they have been largely successful with it, really reducing their resin range, and metal as well, but metal is so far behind with some items. I think I've only ever painted or even used one metal model in the past couple of years. It was an Astra Militarum Commander, or it was Pask. Either way, we are moving away from this area, but it's a last ditch area that they're still going to charge lots of money. It is going to increase significantly, and for Forge World, goodness knows what's happening there. I truly do not know. The other thing they're saying is specialist games are probably going to go up. They use the example of Blood Bowl, and I'm largely not surprised by that because their sales are nowhere near as high as their big sellers such as 40k or AOS. Now, the only exception was Curse City, and who knows, maybe when we see Curse City finally get reprinted, maybe they might be cheaper than some of the scalpers. Who knows? That could be a very pessimistic viewpoint there, and I highly doubt that, by the way, but you never know. If we are looking at a 10+% increase, that might be quite a bit of a pain. Either way, a lot of these in general I can sort of understand, or at least when I say understand, I sort of anticipated. When it comes to the kits, I usually look at them increasing somewhere between 3 to 5% on a yearly basis, which is ludicrous. I've worked in businesses before where they tried to make that the aim, and I said sometimes you're going to price yourself out, you need to really delay that. And then the books, I know that they've been trying to push up for a long time. Now, the example I've given here is that Astra Militarum Codex at the moment, which was released in October 2017, was £25. And then in January 2021, they tried to sell Warzone at £35. That's about a 3.5 year difference, and the difference in price is, I don't know, 30%, give or take, £35 to £25, maybe a little bit less than that. Either way, that is a big increase of price for about 3.5 years difference between them. So something really to have a look there, especially when it comes to the books. But yeah, some of these prices I think were ones we could anticipate, and some of them just seem a little bit high. lastly, we come to what they say is staying the same. Now, the first thing is your paints and tools. Now, let's face it, some of us will be quite happy at this. I may have never bought certain Space Marines, I've never bought really Craft Royal before, but you know what every person has bought when they paint? It's Lead Belcher. Now, again, please don't hate on me on that, that's a joke. I know some people will not touch a Citadel paint for love nor money, but the point of the matter is that a lot of people, no matter what, if they do paint, whatever force they use, they are going to use paints, whether it be Citadel or any other brands. All the forces are going to require paint if you are a painter, and it's good to see that the prices are not increasing there, because that's something that all people generally will use. However, one thing I'd say to that is not that it's an altruistic reason that they're like, oh, don't worry, it was the area we didn't want to increase. I think it's because competition is getting quite rough in this area. Now, Army Painter just released their new speed paints, and they are quite a bit cheaper. I believe that, now you can correct me on some of the prices here, they are releasing theirs at $375, while Contrast Paint is around $475. Again, correct me if I'm wrong in that one. Now, that's nearly £1 per bottle difference. If you include some of the discounts as well, it's quite good. That can add up depending on the amount of paint you got. Certainly for me, now I've only just got into painting the last couple of years, I have bought a lot of paints and put a lot of money into it. That certainly £1 per bottle really does add up, along with the tools, which are generally always considered to be overpriced, that you're maybe buying the brand rather than buying the actual item. Clippers are clippers in some cases, but Citadel ones seem to have a higher price tag. Then yeah, I can see them not wanting to increase their price here, because they were already pricing themselves out of a market that has a lot of competition for the exact item that they almost have. Sure, the paints may be different, and there might be a difference in quality, I get that, but when it comes to clippers, when it comes to scalpels and knives and everything, glue, all of them are pretty much the same. There might be some quality difference, but really this is an area that Games Workshop must recognise. There is competition here, and if they increase their contrast paints to be over £5, while speed paint just came out at $375, it would almost, online, they would not be able to sell. Well, they would sell, but a lot of people would certainly kick up about it. They already are. Adding more price to it, it would certainly go even worse. The other one is the majority of starter sets. Now, this is an interesting one, that they did list the star sets, and I didn't see the Command Edition for 40k there. So that's in about, I think, £105 at the moment. So 7th March, that could go up to, if I was to guess, £120. Could be wrong in that one. Maybe it is one that they're not going to increase, but I'm only guessing. The point is that Games Workshop know it is expensive to get into this hobby, and it's expensive to persuade friends and everyone to get into the hobby, because your first investment could be as easily as £100, just an entry. And then the second one is probably going to be significantly higher, and that could really put people off even thinking about the hobby, and that is extremely understandable. So yeah, a lot of these starter ones are going to be staying the same, but not all of them, which is a very important distinction. And the only reason I can think for that is I do not think it's for the reason of, again, altruism, is for the sheer fact that they know that if they want to increase the amount of people coming into the hobby, becoming even more expensive is just going to do the exact opposite of that. And finally, Australia, New Zealand, Japan and China, well, it looks like you're not getting really any price differences yet. Who knows what's going to be in the future on that one, but largely at the moment, you're already paying a large amount of money already for this stuff. So it's hard to imagine that they're going to go, hey, we're going to increase again. But it may be the case of, yeah, there might be more prices coming for you guys in the future. I don't know, speculate. I mean, there will be, because that's how the world works in terms of we just seem to increase price. Very rarely does it go down. But my point in this one is that for now you seem to be spared. But it's hard to spin this, as I say, because you're already paying a premium amount for these items. And that is it for my thoughts on the Games Workshop price increases. Now, when it comes to inflation, I can largely understand it to a degree. I've run a business before, and when your cost of goods go up, you do consider a lot of the times, how am I going to play this? And ultimately, when it came to myself, I did increase prices. So I do get that, and I do understand it. However, Games Workshop, compared to myself, is working on a completely different level, and there's a lot more things to consider in terms of hobby, you know, bringing people into the hobby, exposure through online, through different mediums such as video games, etc, etc, etc. So there's a lot to consider here. The other thing Games Workshop's got to consider as well is their infrastructure must be expensive to run, and now they're getting loads of competition that are actually proving to be a little bit cheaper but keeping a higher quality. Looking at Mini Wargaming, for instance, they've just released their line of Chaos Space Marine equivalents, I forget what the name is, and they are looking to further lines, but they are making sure they're keeping them quite distinct in style, which I fully approve of. You can't really have, you know, these traitor, demonic, you know, marines from space, etc, heavy armoured. As long as you avoid the iconography, I think it's really, really good. However, Games Workshop must be very, very aware of this, and yet they're still going to go up in price. So, very interesting approach on that one. And I just feel that, yeah, I'm not surprised in the slightest. I may be surprised by some of them being so high. Anything above 10% in a single go is extreme, even 10% is extreme. So I'm very thankful that they actually did give us a little bit of warning on this one. There is items I'm planning to get. I was always debating getting some Custodes from Forge World. This has almost sealed the deal that I am going to pick up 1 or 2 items from there ASAP, just to make sure, because I do not want to pay such an inflated price for them in the future when I know that in the next year I'd be buying them anyway. So that is probably where I'm going with that one. One thing I'd warn people on that is don't panic buy. Don't go, well, oh my goodness, loads of things are going to go up in price, I need to buy everything. No, make sure again when it comes to this hobby, buy smart. Try not to fill up your hobby craft too much with everything that you want. Make sure you know that you are going to either use it in terms of playing or painting or just your general enjoyment with the item. I know myself, I've got loads of things in my cupboard of shame that I need to either work on, paint, use, etc. So I don't want to be hypocritical in that one. But again, I think it is very important that the ultimate thing is when you have an expensive hobby like this, that you do try and be as smart as possible. Look at second-hand, look at second-hand, look at places that do big discounts. The UK is filled with them that will save you a lot of money. Internationally, I can't help you there, I don't really know them too well. If you know any, please put them in the comments so other people can see. But I do think this is a sheer sign that, yeah, it was expected, but it's always never welcome to hear about price increases. So thanks again, please comment, share, like and subscribe, let us know what your thoughts on this are. I'm going to expect that most people are going to be negative on it, and I think that in areas you're going to be understandable, in areas you're going to go, well, you've just had huge profit years, yep, your stock's going down, but come on, you know you're already expensive. I get it, but I'm still interested to hear what people have to say. So thanks again, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.